This episode of the What's Happening Delco podcast is brought to you by Delco Meets for Business. Check us out on Meetup, register, and attend one of our fantastic networking meetings, which we meet on the first and third Thursday at the Brick House in Ridley Park, and the second and fourth Thursday at the Upper Crust in Newtown Square. We look forward to seeing you there. What's happening, Delco? I'm Rich Jane, and welcome to the What's Happening Delco podcast. Today, I'm joined by Anna Welsh of Anna Welsh Leadership. Anna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
What is Anna Welsh Leadership?
Well, Rich, you know when there's companies that have a great product, they have decent demand, a decent, profit margin, but their people issues is kind of what's keeping the owners and the managers up at night. Either the people don't get along with one another, you don't have the right leaders in place, the culture just feels off. So what I do is I'm a workplace strategist, and I help bring those dynamics to a more peaceful and profitable place. I do coaching for individuals and small groups. I conduct trainings for teams to elevate their soft skills so they know how to play the professional game in a professional way. And I'm also a professional speaker. And I speak at conferences and companies in really helping elevate the workplace dynamics within their culture.
That's a lot. How did all this get started for you?
It is a lot. I worked in corporate healthcare for 10 years. So I was born in Brazil. I grew up in South Florida, met a really good-looking guy at a bar in Hoboken, New Jersey, the only guy wearing an Eagles jersey, and turned into a full-blown Philly girl. But prior to that, for 10 years, I lived in Hoboken, New Jersey. And through a series of jobs, I got a life-changing job at a large dermatology group practice. At the time, it was a small dermatology group practice called Schweiger Dermatology. When I joined, I was the 11th employee. I was there for 10 years. When I left, there was 1,200 employees. When I started, we had just opened up the second office. When I left, there was 93. And when I started, I had 0 gray hairs, Rich. And when I left, I get my roots done every 6 weeks. I started in operations and really faked it till I made it. I worked really, really, really hard to help bring the CEO, Dr. Schweiger's vision to life and help execute all of his ideas and growth plans. And then I moved into an HR role. I helped build the initial HR department. And in fact, at that time, we called it employee experience. Because we were growing so quickly, we were essentially doubling in size every year. By the 5th year, we had 60% turnover, 60, which is insane for, in theory, a series of dermatology group practices. And so my KPI, my number one, goal that I was given was to reduce turnover and help build a culture. So we built it from the ground up with the executive leadership team. We rolled out core values for the first time, employee engagement programs, recognition programs, and really built this culture that you couldn't see on the P&L, but you felt in all the offices and in the corporate headquarters as well. So that turned into my claim to fame. When I was in operations, I was not a good manager. I had no idea what I was doing. I, treated everyone as one size fits all. And I sucked as a manager, if I'm being honest, for the first few years. Through a series of failures, I turned it around and really learned how to interact with people. And knowing that you have to interact differently, that you have to be patient sometimes, lead with some empathy, but also hold people accountable. So it's a nice blend of all the soft skills that I now coach. And as I was approaching my 10 years, I knew I wanted to do something different and focus on what gave me the most energy, which is helping develop others and helping them live an easier work life, helping them know how to show up, what to say, how to say it, and really helping others and teams become the people that everyone wants to work with. Because we've all worked with someone that we couldn't stand working with, and it completely derailed the culture and the environment. And my mission in life is to help people have a better work life, show up more strategically, effectively, and make more money, quite frankly.
As a business owner, as somebody responsible for managing or making sure people that are at a place where they can succeed, What are some of those things that they should be thinking about to bring in somebody like Anna Welsh leadership? What is it that they don't know that they don't know?
Oh, really great question. Many times business owners are focused on their business. They're working in the business versus on the business. And usually it's because they don't have the right people in the right seats doing the right thing. And they may get sold an online course or get told by some bigwig that they met that they can come in and fix the culture. But it's not that easy. You have to really have a tailored and intentional approach to how you're leading your teams. Many times business owners, I find, don't have meetings with their teams. They don't interact with their teams. They don't connect with their teams because, I'm using air quotes for the listeners, they're too busy. And so it's so important to do kind of the hard stuff, the stuff that you quote unquote, again, using air quotes, you don't have time for, to invest in your team and really teach them and groom them and mold the ways so that you as a business owner can lift up and start working on the business because you have the right team underneath managing the day-to-day in the business. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
It does. What you said was, hey, I'm in my business. I'm turning wrenches. I'm sending emails. I am making sure that the money's coming in. I'm trying to find new business, but not necessarily am I putting my team, am I putting my employees, as you said, in the right seats, right? So what I would say to that is there's a common misconception that I think we should always be striving for more, to be elevated, to be promoted. There are businesses or there are corporations or there are entities where somebody will get promoted. They have so many skills in one area, but not those skills to be developed into, let's say, a management role. Is that something that you can help, as you pointed out, those seats? How can you identify people are in the right seats or whether they're actually, yes, we can put somebody at an elevated level or they should stay down here and thrive because that's what they do?
The best way I think I can answer that question is by starting with having awareness of that employee's strength and what energizes them. Many times, if they're good at something, it does not mean that that energizes them and that they're thriving in that role. I'm a consultant and trainer with a personality assessment that's been around since the 50s. It's called Predictive Index. And I deploy that to all of my coachees because I like to see how they're naturally wired, to see if they have A, leadership skills or even desires, or B, if they have that motivation to grow into a leader, where they need to stretch. Let's say they're more reserved and quieter and don't like to engage with others. They're more a collaborator, not necessarily a driver. They're more routine based and routine gives them energy and they don't like change. Having some sort of data to help identify how they're naturally wired and if and where they can stretch and then how to stretch is one way that I would answer your question. But another way that I would answer your question is also building connection with all of those employees. Many times, like I said, the managers or leaders are so busy, their heads down, and they forget to sit and talk and ask open-ended questions and probing questions to their employees. I was just with a coachee yesterday. For context, this coachee is the right hand of an owner operator of multiple Nothing Bundt Cakes franchisee locations in Michigan. I work with 6 different owners in the Nothing Bundt Cakes franchisee system. The first owner that I started with, many of your listeners may know of, Kim Wright. She owns 5 local Nothing Bundt Cakes businesses, locations. So anyway, going back to my story, I was working with this coachee. She's the right hand. She's kind of, if you will, the district manager of 4 different locations, 4 different managers. And last fall, we really worked on having her integrate a people-oriented activities into her weekly schedule, because her activities were visiting the bakeries, checking the cakes, quality assurance, doing the schedules, doing all of the hard skills, but not necessarily highlighting or focusing the soft skills. All of the people stuff that she was working on was all reactive. So someone called her, there was an issue, she would go there. So we worked on having a proactive approach, playing offense, to really honing in on her people, connecting with them, understanding them better, and setting them up for success. I met with her in November, and then I met with her again yesterday, January 21st, because they're very busy in December and we usually pause. And she said the look on her face was just of relief and liberation and joy and confidence. She said, since November, I have been integrating probing questions, conversations with staff. I've identified some high potentials I didn't even know had potential to move up. I've understood other people's situations a little bit better, and I have better rapport with staff. And I said, this is so great. Why don't we work on now having your managers, the 4 managers in the 4 locations, start to do this? Imagine if your managers had connections with the staff and became leaders that everyone wanted to follow. And she breathed so heavily and said, that would fix 90% of our problems. So I think it's about setting aside time and having a strategy and being intentional about understanding your people, knowing where they are, and seeing if and how you can elevate them. And if not, building kind of an avatar of who you need in that seat and then hiring to that.
That's amazing. And there are 2 words that stood out to what you shared: awareness and connection. That if you don't really take the time to watch, to listen, to ask those probing questions, as you pointed out, you don't know how to take the next steps. So you talked to us about like these sizes of companies and businesses and organizations that you help. What are those first steps that people can begin with Anna Welsh leadership? What are those? Hey, I need help. I'm now aware of it. What do we do, Anna?
So that one of the things that I pride myself in my business is I tailor my approach to each business owner, each point of contact, each client. The first thing that I would do is start advising and working with the owner directly. I need to understand the history of the company, history of the team, the desires of the owner. What are their KPIs? What are their goals? If they don't have that, what is their org structure? Is their org structure efficient? Is their org structure P&L friendly? So I first work with the owner directly to review the foundation of the organization when it comes to its people. Secondly, I usually begin coaching their key leaders and help identify where those key leaders have gaps, and then work to coach to elevate those gaps. And by the way, it's usually in the soft skills arena. I also do trainings for groups. So it's either trainings for the key leaders or the high potentials, the individual contributors that are reliable, are capable, and want to grow and show potential for growth. So typically those are my services, and that's how I like to cascade. I'm working with an organization right now, local Philadelphia law practice, and they have wonderful core values, but their employees don't know the core values, and they don't really understand the meaning behind them or how to bring those core values to life. And so I'll be doing a large activity with their attorneys and key leaders and staff to help everyone be involved in creating definitions for each core value and defining a really impactful story that goes with each core value. Then I'll work with the owners to integrate those core values into the entire year, into their day-to-day, into all their programs, their awards, their recognition, their hiring, quite frankly. Are you hiring around the core values? The performance reviews. So it's a complex answer, but I don't believe in a one size fits all. Oh, hey, this is my consulting group and this is the steps that you need to take, because many times it really needs to be tailored to the organization in terms of where it's at and where it wants to go.
You have a tremendous wealth of knowledge, experience, and what I see is you're a motivator of people. Who motivates you? Who inspires you?
My goodness gracious, what a question. Let's see, who motivates me? What inspires me, what motivates me, if I'm being really honest, is money. I would love to make money and I would like to make as much as I possibly can. I'm an immigrant. I moved here when I was 5 years old. I saw my dad at age 30 learning English, working 2 jobs, and he did all of this to set me up for a better life. And so while we've never sat down and he, has said to me, Anna, you need to live a better life because you need to get the American dream because I did this. It's just a known thing. And I've always, from being a little girl, been motivated to be busy, to do more, to want more, to grow. Life is short, Rich, as we know. I want to make the best version of my life. So I don't want to sit around and just do status quo and be in my routine. I like to grow. I like to hustle. I like to make money, and I like to live my best life, and I like to help others live their best lives too.
You're motivated by George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Grant.
Chanel bags, vacations.
Yeah.
But I feel so fortunate. I've worked my tail off. I've been working since I was 14 years old. I worked in the restaurant business from age 14 to 25. And then moved to New York City and had a job in public relations. And I was a pharmaceutical sales rep. And that's how I met Dr. Schweiger and got that life-changing job. So I've always taken risks and grown because I just like to, I don't want to have any regrets as best as I can. And I also don't want to struggle as I did in my earlier years. I just turned 40 and I think the best is yet to come.
You're high energy and I can feel it coming through from you. Looking at where we are in our world, because again, you're going to these companies and you're listening, you're evaluating, but I think, and you tell me, is self-health, is preserving the body mentally and physically something that you find is coming more to the forefront, and those skills and those abilities that you need to now bring to what you do?
The biggest theme that I'm seeing in organizations is people not, I'm using air quotes again, vibing with one another. People not understanding each other. In fact, Gallup just did a recent study where the lowest percentage of employees feel respected at work. 37% of US employees strongly agree that they are treated with respect at work. Only 37%. 4 in 10 US employees feel respected at work. So whether it's a mental health or it's, you need a personal day or flexibility for a working mom, there's just a disconnect that I'm seeing in so many organizations. People are so ready to call someone out or to say that someone's not working hard or not committed or not a good fit. And that's the default approach. I'm seeing so many, with all due respect, baby boomers just completely writing off the entire Gen Z population and not even trying to understand their psyche, trying to understand their worldview. And I think the biggest opportunities in companies right now, and it may sound, warm and fuzzy, it may sound soft, is figure out a way to reset the mindset, in particular of leaders and frankly of new hires, of individual contributors, to connect with one another, understand each other, do their best within reason to be flexible and of course have empathy, again, within reason, but figure out a way to have people, quote unquote, vibe with one another. Be the person that everyone wants to work with. They're going to see Rich is in that meeting and say, oh, I'm so excited Rich is in that meeting because I know I always learn from him and I love the way that he presents himself. That is the biggest theme that I'm seeing, not necessarily around the self-help or self-health. It's around the workplace dynamics. And that's particularly what I absolutely love to unpack and then repack in a better manner to drive peace and, frankly, profits within the organization.
That observation of the interaction of people and where they are today, we've come from that remote work that you don't need to come into the office anymore to, well, we want you to come in a couple days. I see out there that there's more of a trend that we want you back 5 days a week. Maybe it's not that extreme. How do you now make those, how do you now fill in the gaps, or how do you now work with those owners that are working with this employee population that said, all this time, I could work from home. I could do the laundry while I'm on a Zoom call. I could do all these things, but I can't do these anymore. What are those conversations like?
The ideal work scenario, based on recent studies, is having employees on a hybrid work schedule. So they're coming in 3 days a week and home for those flexible doctor's appointments, for the leaving early for the soccer game, or being able to do your laundry while you're on a call. Those 2 days a week are ideal. And then the 3 days a week to drive connection, to drive face-to-face interaction, to allow the owners to feel good paying their monthly rent of the place. That's the ideal scenario, is hybrid. And you know what? I understand that there are some professions that you don't even have the opportunity to work from home. You don't even have the hybrid opportunity. And then there are some that you could technically go fully remote. There's pros and cons to everything, but my recommendation would be to be in a hybrid scenario. However, be flexible if there's really strong talent that doesn't live in the area, that can have some sort of even more flexible opportunity in order to bring their talents to the workplace. I think 5 days a week is, unless truly necessary, again, hospital setting, an auto mechanic, really hands-on, hospitality or whatnot. If you have the opportunity to have a remote workforce, hybrid is the way to go.
So many gems, so many nuggets today. How do people connect with you? How do they find you to get started to work with you, Anna?
They can email me directly at Anna, A-N-A, at annawelsh.com. So Anna, A-N-A, at ANAWELSH.com. Please follow me on Instagram, Anna Welsh Leadership. Find me on LinkedIn, Anna Welsh, or just go to my website, annawelsh.com. Again, ANAWELSH.
You're heading to one of your companies that you're working with, and you have a cheesesteak craving. Where are you picking up a cheesesteak at in Delco?
2 places, Delco Steaks or Maddie's on a Roll, cheesesteak egg rolls.
Very nice. How about that pizza craving? Where are you stopping for pizza?
I have to be honest with you, Rich. Living in Hoboken, New Jersey, and being in New York City almost 7 days a week, I haven't found anything that I absolutely love and that blows me away out here. And I hope the listeners don't hate me for that. Perhaps Angelo's is the closest to it, but my husband and I talk about it all the time, as we still haven't found that pizza place that rivals our New York City faves.
You're out and about and you have a convenience store need. Where are you stopping? Royal Farms or Wawa?
Wawa.
How do you describe Delco to somebody who's never lived here or has never heard of Delco before?
As a Delco transplant, married to my husband who has lived in Delco his whole life, he grew up in Broomall. I love Delco more than anything in the world. I grew up in Broward County. I like to say that I grew up in the Delco of South Florida. But the number one thing that I love about living out here is everyone is down to earth. There's a sense of belonging. I love wearing all of my Eagles merchandise and going out and saying, "Go Birds." I love the blue collar to the ambitious, self-made white collar. There is just something in the air about Delco that is so comforting, down to earth, but mixed with ambition and grit. I absolutely am so happy to be Delco. I'm a Delco transplant. All of my girlfriends tell me I'm technically not Delco, and I accept that. I pay Delco taxes, but I am the biggest fan of the community of Delco.
You're converted. You're Delco by marriage. I am just so curious. Had your husband been wearing, let's say, a Giants jersey or something, would there have been that connection?
Unclear, Rich. I'm sure glad that he was wearing an Eagles jersey because I am a completely converted Eagles fan. We joke around and say that I have more Eagles merchandise than the average Delco resident, but I just knew that I needed to meet him as soon as I saw him, call it a woman's intuition, but I went up to him, introduced myself to him, and I'm sure glad I did. 6 months later, I moved from South Florida to Hoboken, and now we've been married for over 11 years. We saved up. We bought our dream home here in Wayne, Pennsylvania. And I'm just very, very happy that he was wearing that Eagles jersey because it sure helped him stand out.
You have friends or family coming in from out of town and you want to give them or take them to that Delco experience. Where are you sending them or where are you taking them?
To be honest, when friends or family come in from out of town, we are relaxing at my house or going into Philly, or the best place that I love to go to in Delco is Marple Pub, because I know that I'm always going to run into someone that I know there. The vibes are always going to be high. The food and the drinks are delicious. And it's just my comfortable, fun place to go to. If I'm ever out with my girlfriends and we have dinner and we're ready to go somewhere else, sometimes we may or may not end up at Barnaby's.
Anna, is there anything we haven't spoken about on our podcast today? Anything you want the listeners to know more about you or more about Anna Welsh leadership?
The biggest thing that I want your listeners to know is there are so many leadership coaches out there. There are so many consultants out there doing very similar things to what I do. What sets me apart is I'm down to earth, relatable. I can connect with the Gen Z to the boomer to the struggling early career professional. I'm different in a sense where I also don't sugarcoat things and I say hard truths in a soft way. I like to debunk a lot of these social trends that, in my experience, doesn't actually work in the workforce. And I focus on human nature and human energy and how that's going to parlay into a better work life and company profits.
Anna, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast today. Thanks for being a friend of What's Happening Delco. We can't wait to watch your impact in the community, helping business owners just level up and get the most out of what they started, what they dream to do, and what they look to achieve every day.
Thank you so much for having me, Rich.
Thank you. Hey, it's Rich. Thank you so much for being a listener to the What's Happening Delco podcast. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to learn more about the people and businesses in our community. I have been a real estate agent for over 25 years, working with first-time home buyers to last-time home sellers. As a listener of the podcast, my gift to you is a complimentary 1-year American Home Shield home warranty. This is for buyers and sellers that I help. If you're looking to move anywhere in the United States, I have you covered with an amazing network of real estate agents. I look forward to hearing from you. My direct line is 215-313-3777, or you can email me at rshaneremax@comcast.net. Oh, by the way, I am never too busy for any of your referrals.